UFC 310 has just concluded, and before we get into this, folks, I'm so sorry about this new setup, this new background. I'm not actually at my setup currently. I'm at a makeshift setup that I've made in someone's living room. So that's how we're doing the fights right now. We're going to be talking about them, breaking them down. UFC 310's just finished. We're going to talk about the co-main event in this video. Ian Garry versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. A huge fight coming into it. My heart was beating out of my chest when they were stood in the cage. And you know what I was thinking to myself? Obviously, my ambition and my goal is to fight and to compete, and I'm going out to Thailand in January to pursue that. Listen, that's how you're meant to feel while watching a big fight. Your heart's meant to be pumping, and you're meant to be like, fuck, like, and jittery and excited for the whole week. That's a big fight. That's a big feeling. If that's not a motivation and an ambition, it's not about winning the fight. Well, it is, but it's also about making people feel that way. And that's kind of a lot of my ambition and my desire within this sport. But I just want to say, the better fighter in the co-main event was Ian Garry. He was the much better fighter. And he also looked, hear me out, Ian Garry is the more complete fighter. Ian Garry had moments of success on the feet with the leg kicks, the jab, the head movement. He took Shavkat Rakhmonov's back and almost finished him in the 5th round when he needed a finish to win the fight. Shavkat never had him in any trouble. Shavkat held him against the cage and was in his guard. In the rounds that Shavkat won, he did do the better work. He landed some clean shots, he did hold him against the cage. He did just enough every round. A very Arman Sarukian type performance. Sarukian type performance from Shavkat Rakhmonov, which I think is the best way to describe it. It's a very Arman performance he gave. I really am disappointed though. I thought Shavkat would walk forward like a zombie like he usually does, but instead he was forced to hold Ian Garry against the cage to get his win. And he's lost a lot of aura. He's lost a lot of stock. However, you cannot discredit the fact that he beat Ian Garry. He beat Ian Garry 3 rounds to 2. I made an immediate reaction TikTok, as you can see in the link below if you follow the TikTok. And I said 3-2 Shavkat, and it was 3-2. Look, Ian Garry won the 3rd round and he won the 5th round. First 2 rounds was just so much cage control. And in between the rounds, Ian Garry had to change his shorts because Shavkat pushed him up against the cage so hard, the back of his shorts ripped to pieces. And I was thinking to myself, I can literally see his boxers, and I don't really want to be seeing his boxers. Are they going to change his shorts? Or because if they keep ripping, his shorts will fall off. You know, and that's a massive distraction. And they did change it in between the rounds. But look, folks, Ian Machado Garry is so talented. His balance is incredible. He started with a judo background. His balance was phenomenal. He actually had Shavkat in way more trouble than Shavkat had him. If you're judging it as a fight, as one big long fight, Ian Garry wins. And I think this fight should have been a draw, if I'm being 100% honest with you. And to be honest, Shavkat is no longer this scary boogeyman. It's a very clear way to beat him. You chop at his legs, you keep him at range. Ian Garry should have moved more. However, one thing I will say about Ian Garry is he is so good. He will be the champion of this division in the future. Go away, get 1 or 2 wins, come back. I think he beats Usman. I think Ian Garry beats Usman. Usman would try hold you against the cage, but in a 3-rounder, where Ian Garry knows he's only got 3 rounds, I think he goes out there. I mean, welterweight's a very tough division, and I love how Twitter is now saying, fair play to Ian Garry, he stepped up, he got Shavkat in more trouble than Shavkat had him in trouble. Well done. Well done, Ian Garry. And what's next for both men? Probably the world's potentially what could be the most boring title fight in UFC history. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad, which is quite ironic because they didn't remember the name at all. Shavkat did what he had to do to win, and I'm really worried about the sport after that performance. I mean, that's what the sport's becoming. I'm really, really worried about how much of the sport nowadays is that. And the fight was so exciting and it didn't deliver. If that fight was a war and Shavkat beat him 3 rounds to 2 in a war, that's no problem. It's the fact Ian Garry had the better moments, was closer to finishing him, and still lost. I wanted Ian Garry to win going into this. It was better for the division. It was better for everything. I'm human. I'm slightly biased. One of my friends that I met out in Thailand the first time out about a year ago is saying Shavkat's the greatest fighter of all time. It's who you support. Do you know what I mean? If Conor McGregor came back and bullied Michael Chandler up against the cage, I would probably say, well, we needed to see this from Conor, you know? We needed to see him implement. You just create a narrative in your mind, and I'm human, I'm completely open, I'm completely honest to that. However, the fact that his shorts were being ripped up because of how hard he was being pressed against the cage is crazy, and I really appreciate the fans giving him the credit he deserves. 15-1, great record, 8-1 in the UFC. I'm a bit gutted his win streak's now broken, but you know, whatever. It was the longest active win streak in the welterweight division going into it. He took the fight on 3 weeks' notice. He didn't have to do that, and I'm so grateful for people actually acknowledging that on Twitter. But I tell you what, Ian Garry generates some excitement, and if he got the job done, it would have been 10 times more interesting for the division, for social media, for MMA as a whole. He's going to be gutted with that performance. If he had done more in that first round, he would have won. It was one of the closest fights ever in terms of moments. There was only a few moments between each guy throughout the whole 25 minutes. He's went 5 rounds. He's now got that experience. He's only just turned 27. He's just turned 27. He's closer to 26 than he is to 28. So he's early, 2, 3, 4 weeks into 27 years old. He's brilliant. His balance is incredible. His fight IQ is phenomenal. And I think we start giving Ian Garry the credit that he deserves 100%. Anyway, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from here. What's next for both guys? Let's finish it off here. Belal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Book it for March. Not April, March. I want to see that fight in 3 months. It will be April. It'll be April, May they book that fight for. Belal started training again. He'll probably need a few more weeks to get into it. So I'd imagine April. Ian Garry, he likes to be active. Get him back in there against the winner of Covington versus Buckley in March. March, April as well for Ian Garry. First quarter of next year. I think Ian Garry co-main event O'Malley's comeback in April. I think that'll be. You could probably do O'Malley main event, Belal co-main event, and you can have Ian Garry on the card as well. Or if Ian Garry's wanting to... The best way to handle a loss, especially for fickle MMA fans, is to just brush it off. March, I want to see Ian Garry back. That's another really quick turnaround to the end of March. UFC, would that be 314? Yeah, UFC 313, 314 is probably not very likely. However, I want to see him back. Or Colby Covington and Garry headlining a fight night. That could be fun. I just want to see big fights. And I think Ian Garry needs to now be like, okay, I'm going to make my... I know his mentality. I know him. He'll say, I need to now make myself inevitable and undeniable. I'm still the future. He's no longer undefeated. It's very difficult to go undefeated in this sport as a striker, as someone who wants to make fights interesting. And we're just going to leave it at that, folks. Anyway, have a good evening, folks. If you guys are from the UK, Scotland, Ireland, then you stayed up to watch it, representing the UK fan base, then massively appreciate you guys. If you guys want to follow the TikTok, the Twitter, go over and do it now. I'm very passionate about the sport, and I'm thinking I'm going to develop a style that'll fucking flatten all these wrestlers, and I think the more I watch fights, the more I know how to do that. So just watch this, and I'll do it for you. And fair play to Ian Garry. He's going to be in the sport for a very long time. He's incredible. He's a phenomenal representation of sportsmanship and athlete, and he shook Shavkat's hand. He said, fair play to you. I'm very happy with what I've seen from him. And he's just went 5 rounds, and his defense against the cage was phenomenal, and yeah, see you later.